Hey there, Jets Nation. Welcome back to One Jets Pod. Whether you're tuning into our video content or joining us on our audio-only platforms, we've got you covered. If you're enjoying what you hear or see, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't just gently tap, but smash that bell icon to stay notified whenever we drop new content. Also, we love comments and 5-star ratings. Thanks again, Jets fans. Now together, let's fuel the green and white passion. Let's go, Jets.
Welcome to Jet Life Stadium. Hit it!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Randy with the One Jets Pod. We got a special episode tonight. It's an Around the League show. Basically, we're talking about the stretch run to the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit of Jets in this episode, especially after that Falcons game. But like I said, this is basically an Around the League show, stretch run to the playoffs type of show. So thanks again for checking us out here on the One Jets Pod. Now here's your host, Dominic Lorenz.
Hey, what's up, One Jets Pod fans? Dominic Lorenz, the outsider, faithful to the Bay Jets fan over here on the West Coast. Dominic Lorenz here with you with, of course, the lovely and gracious main host of One Jets Pod, Randy. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? How you doing? What a day. That's all I can say. What a day, dude. What a day.
I know, with all joking and funny stuff that we're going to get into and all the serious playoff implications to aside for a second, I know we're going to talk about it with Brandon in a couple of days when we do the recap and the preview show. Unfortunately, condolences to the Jets once again. Tough matchup against Atlanta. Winnable game, but hey, you got to see Trevor Siemian finally.
12 years in a row, no playoffs. Yay.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Longest drought in sports right now.
And that includes the Angels, right?
Oh, yeah.
That includes our beloved Angels baseball.
By like 3 years, I think.
Oh, my gosh. It gets worse.
It's been a rough decade plus for me, brother.
Man. Hey, but we don't look any worse for wear. We don't age at all.
I don't know.
Man, week 13. Yeah. What a week for the NFL. We've had some wild and wacky weeks so far, but let's be honest. What is it now? We're in December. The calendar's flipped. It is the stretch run to the playoffs. It is full on, all gas, no brakes. And this week, and I'm not just saying this because we were texting after the Packers-Chiefs game that I'm like, I want to get stuff off my chest in a good way. It's like, I know you're coming home from work. Do you want to get on just for like 20, 30 minutes? And you were like, yes, sir. Let's go. We got to have fun with this. But in my opinion, first off, I think overall as a whole, this is probably one of the most entertaining weeks of the NFL season so far. I don't know about you.
Oh, it was something.
I know. I feel bad for asking you, is it entertaining when the Jets, look awful? But around the league as a whole, you had good quality games in the morning, afternoon, and the nightcap. Mm-hmm. And truthfully, looking back at the preview show that we did last week, we were all in unison with a lot of our picks. So a lot of games that we thought would go one way went completely sideways, which is completely fine as long as we all choose for it. The picks don't hurt at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. We're all about entertainment for this game. And again, when it comes to the stretch run, when the calendar flips in December, these games are going to get harder. It's these final 5 to 6 game playoff push. And the playoff picture's now getting into focus a little bit. I enjoyed this week, and there's nowhere else I want to start but the 49ers, but I'm going to put the 49ers second for a minute because that just seems too obvious for me. I just want to quickly touch upon the most recent game, Chiefs-Packers, to start this conversation off.
Okay.
Packers get the upset win. I know you, me, and Brandon, we all chose the Chiefs in this game thinking it was going to be a bounce back after they lost to the Eagles the previous Monday night. Jordan Love is starting to look like a NFL quarterback. And after early in the season when the Packers lost and didn't have a win in 40 days, they've put together wins. They looked very good tonight, shutting down Patrick Mahomes, shutting down Travis Kelce. And what did I say? I win the bet. I said she'd be at the game, and she was. I win the bet. But it was, to me, cheers to the Packers defense for a great job. but it's the calls at the end of the game. And you have really harped on this a lot, and you've made a lot of your picks in our pick'ems depending on what the refs are going to do at the end of the day in these high-pressure situations. 2 calls tonight that I really want to talk about is Mahomes running to the sideline in the last drive of the game. He's got at least a foot or two of clearance inbounds. He gets knocked out and thrusted shoulder to shoulder, clean hit, and they throw 15 yards for late hit. Yikes. And then there's a pass interference call that wasn't called, that probably should have been called against the Packers. Mm-hmm. But it's the egregious Patrick Mahomes call I want to get to, because I know you've talked about this a lot this year. Is there really an NFL script?
I mean, I think I wouldn't say to the extent where it's a full-blown, WWE, you're losing tonight and they're winning. But I do think there is one in the sense where, like, it fucking matters who you are. Like, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Tim Butthole, as we call him, or Trevor Seaman, as I like to call him. Those assholes ain't getting that call. Rodgers would get those kind of calls.
Would get the call.
That's why it was huge for us to get a superstar quarterback, because we could finally get those calls.
Yep.
Like, it took 2 years for Zach Wilson to get a roughing the passer call, dude. And we finally got like 2 or 3 this season, which is a miracle. So, yeah in a sense, it is scripted depending on who you are. So, like, when you're Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl winning quarterback, multiple time MVP, if there's only a foot and a half of clearance left before you're out of bounds and somebody knocks you the fuck out,
yep.
Yeah, you're probably going to get that yellow flag and get that 15 added on into your play. So, yeah, to answer your question a little bit in a sense, yeah.
It's more about, I feel, protecting the brand. How can, Joe Burrow's done for the year. Aaron Rodgers, well, he's questionable. He could be coming back. You never know.
There's a lot of backups playing this year.
There's a lot of backups and a lot of second-tier quarterbacks that are getting the attention of what the A quarterbacks would be getting. Brock Purdy.
I mean, imagine if the Chiefs lost Mahomes, dude, for the rest of the season.
I don't need. I could not. $50 of Monopoly money right now. Name me the Chiefs' backup.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I honestly can't right now.
I need to look that up.
Chiefs roster. This is how influenced we are here at the One Jets pod. Is like, we don't even, what in the heck is this? Like, let's see. Backup quarterback, Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert.
He's still in the league, dude?
He helped the 49ers before the Jimmy Garoppolo era.
Wow, I didn't even know he was still in the league.
I didn't know he was even in the league. Blaine Gabbert, you can only imagine. But when you look at, like you said, quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, the list goes up, Jalen Hurts, you're going to get those calls. But guys like teams like the Jets or the lower tier team, you think Josh Dobbs gets that for Minnesota? Probably not. You're protecting your brand, you're protecting your money. But then there's some calls, again, so egregious that can change the pendulum of a game. I'm not going to be ticky-tack about every single penalty that happens, because who am I going to fight an encroachment call or a false start? Okay, it is what it is, 5 yards. But it's 40 seconds left in the game. That extra 15 yards, Mahomes can sling it 50 yards. Wild shit has happened in the season so far, and that is a pivotal game for both teams. Mm-hmm. Chiefs trying to stay in the top 3 in the AFC. The Packers are battling in the hunt in the NFC, especially with the Rams coming on strong, Seattle on a losing streak. You have 3 teams now at a 3-6, or pardon me, 3 teams 6-6 for that final spot in the NFC. That game is pivotal. Yep. And if that was the difference between a win and a loss, look, I hate to bring it up, but look at the Chiefs-Jets game back in, what was it, week 3, week 4? Those late penalties that changed the complexion of a game. It's awful. And this is something the league's got to clear up. And it's a perfect segue a little bit when we're talking about penalties and different things, to segue right into my favorite game of the week, the San Francisco 49ers obliterating the Philadelphia Eagles. And now it didn't look like that. I don't know how much of the game you were able to watch or whatever, but first quarter, Niners had a grand total of -6 yards. 2 3-and-out drives, that was it. It was a very rough start to the game, and I was a pinch worried. I'm like, but the defense held the Eagles in check to only 2 field goals. So I'm like, okay, 6-0 is completely doable. We need one play to snap us in the right direction, and Brock Purdy found a way to do it. There wasn't so much egregious calls in the game before we get deep into the game and really about Brock Purdy and the team being so complete. And how many times have you said this, that and as an outside Niner fan yourself, you claim that the Niners are the most complete team in the NFL, right?
Oh, yeah.
Today was that day that they showed it. And the biggest thing I want to get to was the third quarter brawl that happened between linebacker Dre Greenlaw and the Eagles sideline. There was a late hit. Devontae Smith catches the ball. Greenlaw flips him like WWE style. Flag goes out. Now, for me, I get it. By the letter of the law, penalty.
Yeah, same thing happened to Sauce Gardner last week.
Exactly. So, to me, it happened in bounds. So, initial reaction, I'm like, don't call this late hit out of bounds. Then they show the replay in slow-mo. I'm like, oh, okay, he flipped him. I hate the textbook rule, but it's a rule.
Right.
But he gets up. There's jawing starting to happen. And a non-coach, a Eagles security member, gets in the middle of the melee, pushes Dre Greenlaw. Greenlaw barely, flicks him in the nose? Didn't even reach him. And causes scuffle. Dre Greenlaw gets ejected from the game for making contact with a person on the sideline. The other security guard member did get ejected from the game as well. But we talked about this right before we hit the record button. There's a fine line between if you're a coach getting in the middle of a melee and a non-sideline member being put in the melee.
Right.
If this happened to the Jets, and the Jets, let's say Huff gets ejected from a big-time game, I know you're going ballistic, but take me through your process as a fan of watching something like that go down, because it's incredibly annoying and ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I would. Well, my first thought is, well, why is that guy even in the mix? Like, why is he like he has there? Like, I don't get it. Like, when things like that are going on, like, that's the refs need to be involved. Like, they even pull coaches back out of that crap. Like, who is this guy? Why is he in the mix? So, I mean, yeah, I would have just been like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why is he there? Like, security? Like, like non sideline staff personnel, as far as coaching staff and all that, training, whatever. Like,
yeah,
like you're there to just keep the sidelines safe, I guess. Like, you're not there to get no on the field fray. Like, that's not your as they say when you go into Walmart, that's not my aisle, or that's not my section. So, like, I would have been tripping, dude, which I kind of was. I was like, well, who is this dude? And then they kind of were like, they said security. And I'm like, security?
For me, it's like, okay, if it's the strength and conditioning coach, it was somebody without a headset. So I'm thinking, okay, is it an athletic trainer? Is it somebody who's on the staff?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who works probably in the front office that's only down there on game days. And I'm like, and the media guys and the announcers of this game, they're like, this guy needs a statue in Philadelphia.
For what?
What? For what? He made himself look like a coward. He's getting in the middle of little boy is getting into man's game. Get the fuck out of here. What are you doing? Imagine if that was the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Imagine at a bigger scale game than this, what kind of implication that would have had at the end of the day. He gets ejected, but how does the Eagles not get a sideline violation or some sort of penalty to negate the 15 yards of the other? Like, the rules apply in certain situations, but not in others.
Isn't that the guy, when the game's over, is basically side by side to the head coach, basically leading him through the field so he doesn't get, like, attacked or anything?
Something like that.
Doesn't get lost within the fray of the media,
Typically, for every NFL team, there's always one personnel like that, and then like an actual police or sheriff, just in case things get out of hand.
Absolutely. And they're always side by side right there with the coach at the end of the game when they go on the field. Well, so, like, why is that guy getting in the middle of fucking players and shit?
No.
when the game is going on. Like,
you
your ass
want to
should
run your
be like
mouth?
in the back of the sidelines or some bullshit.
If you want to run your mouth on the sideline. What words are words? Just like the Eagles, all your words mean nothing to me because you didn't put out on the game. Okay? If you want to throw out your words, great. But when you get physical with the player and the player's not even looking at you and you come blindside shoving him, you're asking for trouble. And to me, it's
coaches can't even do that.
No, man, a player bumps a ref and he's going to get fined 90% of his paycheck.
Yep.
You know, so it's just in that moment, it was only 21-6 Niners. And that was still a completely winnable game for the Eagles. And again, I always talk about momentum shifting from the smallest of things to the biggest of situations. That could have been a massive momentum shifter for the Eagles. Luckily, the Niners were able to get them, fourth down, punt the ball. Niners 2.5 minutes later have Debo 48 yards breaking tackles for one of his 3 touchdowns today. But it's just a wild factor. And you already know Dre Greenlaw been injected. He's going to get fined by the NFL. And he's going to sit there and say, well, what did you want me to do? Let somebody push me around and just deal with it? That's where the NFL and the field situation, it's like, I get it. I'm not going to cold cock him in the face. But am I going to stand my ground?
With him being ejected, is he going to miss the next game automatically?
No, I think that's college rules only. Where
gotcha.
If it's the targeting penalty, you miss like the next game or next half of the game or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he should be good to go for Seattle next week. But to put a bow, I want to go to positively here in this game. Randy knows this. Jets fans out there know this. Brock Purdy's an MVP.
MVP Purdy, baby.
He is not just, and we talked about this, he is not just an MVP candidate. I'm going shooting for the gusto here. He is MVP. 19 for 27, 314 yards, 4 tutties, 82.1 QBR, and a 148.8 rating.
That's what, 23, 24 touchdowns on the season now?
He has surpassed that mark. 11.6 yards per pass attempt today. He outplayed Jalen Hurts in their own building. McCaffrey, 93 yards and a tutty. All the talk all week. Debo's trash from the Eagles players and the fans. Debo, 4 receptions, 160 yards, 2 tutties. Kittle goes off. Ayuk gets a tutty. Jawan Jennings shucking off blockers to get in the end zone. This is a complete team. Randy says it all the time, Jets fans. I don't know. This team is stacked on the defense. We talk about the defense all the time. Chase Young getting added. Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year. Fred Warner, all of the group. But this offense, the last 3 weeks, Jacksonville. Now the Eagles. Seahawks on Thanksgiving night. This team is coming into its own. And I don't think if you told this team right now, do you remember when you guys lost 3 in a row in the middle of October?
Oh, 4 in a row.
With Trent Williams and Debo out, Purdy with concussion, and then a full healthy Joe Burrow before his thumb went down for the season. No Niner fan, except me, remembers that we lost 3 in a row, but Brock Purdy, man.
Oh, you're talking about you guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. The Niners and the Jets remember when the Niners were losing in October? The Jets were beating the Eagles at that point. So
That's right.
Hey, so not only, what do Jets and Niner fans have in common this year?
Beat the Eagles, baby.
The only 2 teams that have beaten the Eagles. Who would have thought?
Fist bump, baby.
Fist bump, baby. Oh, we'll cut that and put that together for this week.
That's a special kind of club.
That the only 2 teams. Who would have thought when we started, when I came onto this podcast for the first time, that at this point we would say Jets, Niners, only 2 teams to beat the Eagles this year thus far. Not me.
Oh.
But
I had that as a loss on the schedule, man.
Man, wild. But Brock Purdy leads the league in nearly every positive statistical quarterback category. He's outplaying Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow. Sorry, Burrow, you're hurt. But every other major quarterback in this league, Purdy has dominated. Christian McCaffrey has dominated, and Tyreek Hill has dominated for the Dolphins. Again, sorry, Jets fans. But those are, to me, those are your 3 MVP candidates right here. And if anybody says otherwise, it's time to slap somebody in the face and knock some knowledge into their brain.
Dude, this guy could literally finish with about 30 to 35 touchdowns, maybe 10 interceptions. We'll give him a couple. He'll probably throw well over 4,500 yards, given with 5 games left in the season. Like,
yep.
Why can't he be in the discussion?
Because he's Mr. Irrelevant, and that's NFL.
Bullshit. You and I both know that's bullshit. He deserves to be in this fucking race.
But if we are the commission, if we are the league, wouldn't you want to have somebody as to be named NFL MVP, who is that Cinderella story, Mr. Irrelevant to MVP?
Dude, imagine the content,
the brand,
the 30 for 30, the NFL football life.
You know how many teams? How many teams would take the final rounds of the draft more seriously than just, okay, it's the 6th round. Okay, get whoever you want. No, teams would be studying to the end to find the next Mr. Irrelevant.
Maybe teams might pour a little more into their scouting department.
Everybody always talks about who's the next Tom Brady, who's the next Peyton Manning, who's the next top player. Why can't we say who's the next dark horse Brock Purdy? Who is the next this? Why is that not okay to be a storyline? Is it because he went
publicity and PR for the league? I don't know why they wouldn't go that route.
Is it because he went to Iowa State?
That's bullshit.
Like Patrick Mahomes went to Texas Tech. It's not like Patrick Mahomes went to Alabama. Like, the excuses that they're going to put down, I'll put this down right now and we'll talk about it probably on the preview show or when we make our pick'ems for next week with Brandon in a couple of days. Watch the media Monday morning talk about, the Eagles only, the Niners had 13 days to prep for the Eagles. The Eagles only had, or 10 days because they played on Thanksgiving. The Eagles only had a regular week, and they've had 3 tough games in a row. They had barely beaten the Cowboys. They beat the Chiefs in a wet Chiefs game, and then they had to do this. The excuses are going to come in, and it's like, what happens if Dallas beats Philly next week? What are we going to say about Philly then? There is no way Jalen Hurts can win the MVP right now. I'm sorry. If he loses to Dallas, I know he's going to still be in conversation because the NFL's got a hard on for him. Mm-hmm. But you trademarked it. MV Purdy.
There it is.
It's in the name, man. Like, come on. I know Jets fans will get tired of me talking about it because they wish he was a Niner. They wish the Niner QB was a Jets QB. But imagine what Purdy would do for the Jets if he was a Jet.
Well, first, I don't know. He'd probably be injured by now.
Not with that O-line, but there's probably, I was talking about it, looking at the Jets schedule all year long. Mm-hmm. There's probably 4 legit games that the Jets should have won that they lost. The Raider game today, the Chiefs game, the Patriots game.
Yep.
You could be sitting 8-4 instead of 4-8.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy probably wins you those 4 games.
Oh yeah. I think any quarterback that's mediocre, that's not any of the freaking buttholes on our team right now, other than Aaron Rodgers, would probably one of those games.
Yeah. To me, again, this is a broken record. And I'll say it again when Brandon's on, because I know Brandon will agree with me. Brock Purdy, MV Purdy.
That's right.
Put some respect on this kid's name. I'm not saying he's going to be Tom Brady his whole career, but right now, in the moment, present day, MVP, legitimacy is in the making right now with a statement game. This wasn't a game-winning field goal 23-20. This was 42-19. Niners did not take the gas off anything. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal to see. For me, and I'll get your take now on this, I already said Purdy, McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill are my 3 MVP candidates. To this moment right now, who are your top 3 MVP candidates?
Purdy's up there. He's right there. Who was the other one you just mentioned?
I said Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill.
I like Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. Definitely Purdy. You see me gush over A.J. Brown this year. He's got to at least be in the talk.
Yeah,
Um,
he had over 100 receiving yards today, 8 touches.
I mean, I guess Josh Allen should probably be in the mix, even though he throws interceptions.
I know a
And
lot
I'm
of
sure
people talk
Jalen
about
Hurst is going to be in the conversation. I mean, it's going to be hard not to throw him in the mix when they are what they are, even though they got their ass whooped today.
who is the better quarterback, not career-wise, but to the point this season's. Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Because the Ravens are the unsung team in the AFC right now that are sitting pretty at the top. They got some competition, but is Lamar Jackson legitimate in the enter his name into the MVP best quarterback conversation? Or is the jury still out?
I mean, I don't know. I'd have to see his stats. Lamar's been one of those guys I really haven't paid too much attention to this year.
I will say he is one of those players, I won't lie, that has flown under the radar as much right now. 2,618 passing yards this year with 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a total QBR of 98.4, and he's also rushed 574 yards for 5 touchdowns to his credit.
Only 13 touchdowns?
And 5 interceptions.
How does this guy only have 13 touchdown passes?
And I think a couple of them, I'm not going to lie, I think he had 2 I think he was under 10 2 weeks ago. Because he pretty much throws about 1.5 touchdowns a game.
Who were the other 2 you said?
Mahomes, Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Who would be your front runner for MVP, or who's just the better quarterback right now? Because Josh Allen's out because of the interceptions in this conversation right now.
Of the 3, I'd still have to go with Patrick Mahomes, man.
So Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think it's legit if he had better receivers. We talked about last year how losing Tyreek Hill was going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And they proved everybody wrong. They got to the Super Bowl. They won it. Kelsey, and I forget, they had McCole Hardman last year. They had a couple other guys who caught the ball well for them last year. This year, in year 2 of that post-Hill era, teams are starting to double-team Travis Kelsey. He's having a great year by tight end standards, but it's not the Travis Kelsey year we have seen thus far. Is it time that Mahomes, we talked about it all the time, does Tom Brady need help to be better, or is it more Belichick or Brady? Can we start having the conversation that Mahomes needs help? Like he needs actual receivers? And because right now the receiving core after Travis Kelsey is exactly. Rashid Rice is the best. At least he puts hands on a ball and catches it. Everybody else just drops it. So I think running a scheme better, at least Baltimore's receivers know how to catch a ball for Lamar Jackson. They don't get in the end zone, but at least they catch a ball better, and their offense formulates a little bit easier. And that's the wild thing at the end of the day. But the whole quarterback conversation, my theme, and you can agree, put some respect on Brock Purdy's name.
I mean, I will say this, and absolutely to your point about Mr. MV Purdy. But to go back to your point with Patrick Mahomes and does he need receivers? I mean, yeah, he kind of does. I mean, at least one, legitimate threat there on the outside to pair at least with Kelsey. And I mean, you look at some of these names that they got to choose from. I mean, you got T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney. All those guys are going to be available this offseason, man.
And the whole question about Devontae Adams being traded as well.
Oh, I got a feeling he's going to be a Jet, dude.
I think
Aaron Rodgers did a lot, and
they want to reunite.
As far as taking a pay cut,
he'd do it.
I think I think that's why he did it. And although going into this next, I know we're getting off topic here.
But it's around the league. This means something. It's true.
Because going into the draft, because there's not, in my opinion, there's not a top 5, maybe not even a top 10 offensive lineman in this draft. I think it's from you could probably get one from 11 on.
It'll be later in this year's draft. Yes.
Yeah, I think the Jets will probably end up picking somewhere just right outside the top 5. I would like to see them trade outside of the top 5, get into the top 15 maybe, recoup some picks, get a second round pick or something, get another third or fourth or whatever. And then and if you can do that, get you some offensive linemen. I think the Jets right now got a good nucleus as far as starting 3 or 4. We'll see going into the next season. You got Lincoln Thompson, who's played pretty decent this year, so he'll come back as a starter for sure. And plus, we're paying him. Then you got AVT who'll come back, Mekhi Becton, who I think will exercise his 5th-year option, and then you have Joe Tippmann. Really go out there and get a 5th guy, and then go into the draft, get some depth on the O-line, recuperate some picks, and then maybe trade a 2025 first-round pick to the Raiders and get Devontae Adams.
The pathway there for Joe Douglas is there.
Yeah.
It's completely possible, and I could see the Jets being big players in that sense. But the Chiefs conversation, I don't want to dwell too much on the Chiefs, but clearly they have a problem at wide receiver, and it's pretty evident.
Patrick Mahomes definitely needs that long ball, deep threat target.
He needs somebody else with the eye, like for the Niners. They needed Chase Young, so opposing teams would kind of take one eye off of Nick Bosa so he can do his job. The last 3 games with Chase Young, Bosa has been a completely different player.
Of the players I just mentioned, who do you see as a good fit for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Rename that list one more time for me.
Of the ones here, the big names here, you got T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Mike Evans. You might could throw Marquise, Hollywood Brown is what they call him.
Hollywood Florida Brown.
From Arizona, and then Calvin Ridley and Darnell Mooney from the Chicago Bears.
I can see my first thought would be Calvin Ridley, but I think he actually stays in Jacksonville. Okay. I think out of that list, I think the one that fits the mold of Chiefs football, especially with red zone threat opportunities, Mike Evans.
Oh, I was gonna say T. Higgins.
T. Higgins.
That would be, dude. Mike Evans in Kansas City would be
because when you look at the Chiefs this year in the red zone, it's always somebody different that Mahomes is throwing to. He doesn't have that guy like in years past when Tyreek Hill was there. If they would double Tyreek and Kelsey's open, touchdown Kelsey, touchdown. Kelsey he's getting catches, but they're not for touchdowns as much this year.
Right.
So I think they need a red zone threat, and Mike Evans is playing as good as he's ever been.
He's another red zone threat.
A 30-plus point fantasy day. You had him on fantasy. You beat me, so congratulations to you. But I think he could be an option. But honestly, I will admit, when you have Mahomes as a quarterback, any of those receivers would thrive in the Chiefs offense.
Sure.
I think that's true. But I would put my money on Mike Evans if he so chooses to leave Tampa Bay after, and right now Tampa Bay's 5-7 with Baker Mayfield. Give Baker Mayfield some love. A lot of people thought they'd be the worst in the NFL this year. Hey, I'm not saying put some respect on his name, but
I can see that happening. Evans in Kansas City, especially if Devontae ends up in New York.
Especially with Mike Evans not winning a ring. Chiefs could say, you can help us get another one.
Wait, Mike Evans got a ring.
Does he?
Yeah, he won it with Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah, Tom Brady. That's right.
Come on, Dom. Mr. Around the League host.
We were talking about Tom Brady with the Pats. So I'm like, wait, he didn't play with the Buccaneers. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, who they beat to get that championship? Oh, yeah, it was the Chiefs. There we go. It all cycles back now. But speaking of around the league, and before we go to some of the fancy scores today, I need a little fist bump from you. Only 2 teams, Jets and Niners, to beat the Eagles here in 2023. So, see, Jets and Niner fans can get along from the West Coast to the East Coast.
That's right, baby.
Big games for me today. We won't go too much into the stats, but just big games. The AFC, Colts over Titans in overtime, and Texans squeaking by the red-hot Broncos last second with a Russell Wilson pick in the end zone, 22-17. That division is off the hook in the best way possible because you have Jacksonville at 8-3. They play tomorrow.
Yeah.
Colts 7-5 and Texans 7-5. They're all three teams in the mix.
Texas took a big blow today with Tank Dell going down, though.
Don't have to tell me, he was on fantasy, unfortunately. But you have been on the CJ Stroud train all year long, rookie of the year. You know, he is continuously surprising me. And not like I thought he was going to be a dud, but like, you're doing this as a rookie. Good for you. And D'Amico Ryans and that team, and I mentioned it last week on the show, I said they need a legit running back. And if they could get a legit running back, Nico Collins is great. Dalton Schultz, I know he was out today as a capable tight end. Tank Dell will be back next year. He's a legit threat. If you could go out and get a decent wide receiver 3, middle-of-the-road guy who catches balls, and get a bona fide running back, that team, I think, could compete and beat Jacksonville because you know as each year goes by, D'Amico is going to get that defense rock solid because he did it for us.
Well, you ready for this?
Give it to me.
Well, these are currently, say these guys all go to free agent, which I'm sure they will. Running backs want to get paid.
Yep.
And so these are the pickings that the Texans can have to choose from.
Go for it.
Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs,
Ooh.
Saquon Barkley,
Ooh.
Tony Pollard.
Ooh.
That's just
right there.
That's just the top ones right there, dude. One of them, I guarantee you, Dominic, right here on the One Jets pod, one of them will end up in Houston.
I second it.
All right.
And I said Saquon Barkley, but now knowing I didn't look at the free agent market when that happened.
I think it's gonna be Derrick Henry, dude. I think he wants to stay in division, sock it to Tennessee twice a year. Why wouldn't you? Oh, come on.
Oh,
if I were the Texans, I'd be all over that one, dude.
What did I say at the trade deadline? I said Derrick Henry should go somewhere because Tennessee ain't going anywhere.
Yep.
I don't know.
I think I even mentioned the Texans at the trade deadline, even though I said that probably won't ever happen.
Yeah, I said, a lot of people were like, oh, he's got to go to Dallas. He's got to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas had Tony Pollard. Why are you going to put No. Derrick Henry, I thought, would have been one of those fringe contenders. And looking at the playoff scheme right now, and we're going to get into this, the whole playoff picture, I thought Cleveland could use a running back with Nick Chubb out for a rental. Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, Buffalo could use one, but I know they use James Cook and pass. If you look at the NFC, Minnesota could have used a Derrick Henry. Green Bay with Aaron Jones being constantly out, and all of a sudden they're winning. The Packers could have used Derrick Henry. Like, there's some teams that could have used him. I think any of those running backs, even Josh Jacobs, all 4 of those guys. I think Pollard stays in Dallas, by the way. But the other 3, guarantee Houston, if they get one and they get a fringe 3, wide receiver 3, and work on that defense in the draft, guaranteed playoff team next year.
What about a Tyler Boyd or a Gabriel Davis in Houston?
Wide receiver, yeah. Someone who's like a fringe
on top of bringing in a Derrick Henry. Oh, dude.
Just for CJ Stroud.
Jacksonville will be like.
Yeah. Because Jacksonville's got a quality offense. Trevor Lawrence, ETN, Ridley, Kirk, Evan Ingram at time. They have one of those teams. Yeah. If Houston can do that, and the Colts, here's the thing about the Colts. The Colts don't even have their starting quarterback in. Anthony Richardson, the rookie who looked really good this year. Gardner Minshew is doing this.
Dude, if I was the Colts, I'd be holding on to Gardner Minshew. I'd make sure he's my backup.
Jonathan Taylor.
I'd give him a couple years, shoot.
Jonathan Taylor's been good since he came back with the contract. I know he's out right now, but he's looked great. Michael Pittman has looked legit. Their team has a few nuances that they could clean up a little bit with some no-name people and stuff, but they're getting the job done. That defense is sneaky. Yeah. That division might be the best division the rest of the way the regular season as we approach the playoff push for what dominoes got to fall for these teams. Yeah. I would love to see all 3 of those teams make the playoffs. because I think you could throw some randomness into the postseason.
I mean, at the current moment, I mean, it's a possibility.
I would rather have the Texans, Colts in the playoffs over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Steelers,
I bet you Brandon would second that. He's like, hell yeah.
Hey, let's go. The Steelers today get upset by. Let's talk about upsets for a minute.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, this isn't really an upset, but Chargers 6-0 over New England. That's
kind of an upsetting score, though. Like, really, 6 points is all you. I'm talking as a Jets fan.
Worst game of
New England.
This is the worst game of the season. Whole league. Chargers 6-0.
And even though it was the Patriots, dude, when we were looking, although I don't think looking at this, there's really not a game that stood out as a what the fuck game of the week for me.
Yeah.
And that definitely wasn't screamed what the fuck game of the week, but dude, it shaped up to be exactly that. That turned out to be the what the fuck game of the week right there, dude.
Yeah,
like that was
How can Herbert not throw against this team? How can Austin Eckler not run? Like, to me, I kind of hoped at a certain point the Patriots would win, so the Chargers would fire their head coach Staley on the tarmac before coming back to LA. Like, pull a Lane Kiffin and knock him out on the runway. Like,
what's Rex Ryan say? He needs to go back to Division III where he belongs.
That is awful. 6-0. That is a sham game of the week. You know what another sham game of the week is?
Give it to me.
Arizona over Pittsburgh. Now, I know Pittsburgh lost Kenny Pickett, but you told me, is Kenny Pickett really the secret sauce in Pittsburgh?
Man.
Mitchell Trubisky.
You mix that in with how long was that freaking
lightning delay?
Yeah, how long was that? I was like,
they had a small 30-minute delay in the first half and then nearly an hour and a half, 2-hour delay in the second half.
Because I'm gearing up to watch basically the what was it, the post games and the Sunday night kickoff broadcast, and we're like barely in the fourth quarter. I'm like, what? What the hell? Exactly. So I'm asking you guys. I'm like, what the hell's going on? How is this game still going the fuck on?
Lightning had to vacate people off the field, get the camera crew shut. It was one of those mad situations, and it's insane.
But you know what? Pittsburgh, once Kenny Pickett went out, man, even before the delay, the big delay, man, they just did not look good.
No, not at all.
And we all had the Steelers in that one too.
Yeah, at least we were all in the same boat in that situation. But Arizona,
I should have picked my Cardinals.
That game was weird. Looking at other games, we'll go through all of them with Brandon, but those were the main games on Sunday that I really turned my head and said, regardless if it was good or bad, but
I would say a little mini upset, and I won't say in as far as a win. Because I definitely will never say that any game that the 49ers win is a fucking upset.
Yeah.
Because you just showed your dominance and your place in the NFC tonight. Which, again, congratulations to you guys, man. But
thank you.
That score was a little upsetting. You
wanted a close game.
Even as a guy who fucking picked the Eagles, you could even make a point for the Niners to win. But you would have thought it had been a lot closer than that, man.
Like I said at the beginning, I said, you would think it was 23-20 game-winning field goal. Or that this was a dominating blow. It was close, but when the second quarter turned, the game completely changed. You saw it.
You punched them in that mouth, asked them if they wanted more, and they said, no, thanks.
No, not at all. And to me,
tapped out.
To me, the Niners, who are the three best teams right now in the NFC? Niners, Eagles, and Cowboys. The Niners have now beat the Eagles 42-19. Slap them in the mouth.
Yep.
Cowboys 42-10 back in week 5.
I see what kind of point you're trying to make right now.
84-29. The Niners have outscored. Then, to boot, they slapped the New York Giants in the mouth in week 3 30-13. They have dominated the NFC East. They play the Commanders in a couple weeks, and hopefully they control Sam Howell, Sam Howell's been a nice quarterback this year, by the way, even though the Commanders suck.
Did you see what happened to them today?
Evacuate the stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you look at the Niners, and I was talking about when they score 30 or more points in the game, it is like clockwork. They dominated Trevor Lawrence 34-3. And the biggest test for the 49ers the rest of the year, they got the Seattle Seahawks at home next week. It's a divisional game. At the end of the day, you never know what can happen, right? Then they go to Arizona. Could be a trap game. Look what Arizona did against Dallas and Pittsburgh. Then they got Christmas night at home against Baltimore. Could be a Super Bowl preview matchup. Then you got the Commanders and the red hot Rams, who all of a sudden are winning and are in playoff contention. So the Niners still got people to slap in the mouth still and cause some detrimental bleeding and get to that coveted number 1 seed.
Yep.
And today was the perfect litmus test to shut up everybody from last year's NFC title game. We didn't have a quarterback last year in that game. What did you want us to do? We had him today. Balled out.
Dude, I mean, in my opinion, the 49ers should be considered Super Bowl favorites in the NFC right now. I mean, until somebody goes out and just straight up punches them in the mouth, I mean, you like you just stated, dude, and we've said it on the show, and I believe it was just, I don't know if we said it on the show last week or if we said it just right before we hit record, but I said last week that in order I went Philadelphia, San Francisco, Dallas. Not anymore.
Yep.
San Francisco, Philadelphia, Dallas, which going into next week, now Dallas has an opportunity to now make that San Francisco, Dallas, Philadelphia.
The whole complexion had changed. So if you're a Dallas fan, you're loving the Niners right now because not only 2 weeks ago I said Niners scratch the Cowboys back, Cowboys scratch our back. It happened. Yep. We beat the Seahawks and now the Eagles. Dallas took care of business against the Seahawks on Thursday night. So things are coming in a complexion. The goal for the 49ers is that things that they can't control, if the Eagles and Cowboys could play each other before playing the Niners deep into the playoffs, that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Last year, the Niners had to play Dallas and then the Eagles. It was one of those things where you had to play both. If they can X each other out, that is a huge coup for the 49ers at the end of the day. Now, and this is a perfect segue to looking at the playoff picture right now, and we'll start in the NFC. Eagles, the 1 seed at 10-2. The Niners are tied with the Lions at 9-3, but the Niners have the tie break. So the Niners are the 2 seed. Lions are the 3 seed. The basic Falcons are in 4th with a 6-6 record. Cowboys have the 5 seed at 9-3. Vikings have the bye week, are 6-6. And the Packers, via the tiebreakers, are in the 7th seed at 6-6. Just on the outside, you have the Rams 6-6, Seahawks 6-6, Tampa Bay and New Orleans at 5-7. So Eagles would get the bye. Niners would play Green Bay. Lions would play Minnesota. Dallas would play the Falcons. What do you take from the NFC playoff picture right now? I know the Niners' goal is to get the number 1 seed, and there is a clear path to get there now. But what do you think in this NFC? It's tight. I like Detroit too.
No, I mean, hey, I've been on the Lions bandwagon all year. I said they're going to win the NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's real tight. I mean, the Cowboys at 9-3, like you said, you get Lions 9-3, Niners 9-3, Eagles still sitting up there at 10-2. Could easily be 10-3 next week. And we could have a 3-way tie. 10-3.
Yep. Well, here's the funny thing that you bring up about that situation of Niners winning and Cowboys winning next week. Is it time for the NFL to adjust the playoff seedings a little bit? Where if you're a division winner, you're in the playoffs, no doubt, and they still allow the 7 teams. But the way they rank them, because for the Falcons, yes, they're a division leader. But for them to have a 4 seed at 6-6, where the Cowboys are 9-3, should we disregard where we put division leaders instead of them being the first 4 seeds? It should be just the 7 best records. the 4 division leaders are in the playoffs and 3 wild cards. But once you get those 7 teams, reroute them to just the 7 based in order. Because at that point, it'd be Eagles 1, Niners 2, Lions 3, Cowboys 4, and then Falcons 5. And then, so I don't know how the tiebreaker would go between Minnesota technically beat Atlanta. So Minnesota would be a 5, Atlanta would be a 6, and the Packers would be a 7. Is it time for the NFL to take away that the division leaders have to be the first 4 seeds? Because, like I said, we've seen it in years past where a team like Carolina, like Atlanta, like Tampa get in with an under 500 record.
In my honest opinion, no, I think they should leave it because I think it really puts an emphasis on trying to win your division. I think because see the goal, we all know the goal of the season is to get into the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl.
Correct.
But you got that in-season game where it's all about, hey, we got to try and win the division. Yeah, we can make the playoffs, not as a wild card, but it's like Robert Saleh says, the easy way into the playoffs is winning your division. So, I mean, I totally see where you're coming from. I can totally get on board with what you're saying, but in the grand scheme of things, I just gotta look at it in the sense that it really, really puts an emphasis on teams trying to win the division. That just makes things interesting, I think.
And I think what makes me a little jaded over this conversation is because every year I feel we're talking about the NFC South, Saints, Tampa, Carolina,
and
Atlanta.
That's just one of those divisions, man.
It's the worst, and I think that's what throws me off, because if Atlanta was even 7-6, 8-6, or whatever, I think this conversation's different. But it's when you get to a team under 500.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we allowing under 500 teams into the playoffs? So I think maybe it's just a jaded conversation. It's that one outlier out of the whole playoff scheme. But, I get you. I don't think the NFL will change it at the end of the day, because if you win your division, you deserve to host a game. I get that. So one day may it happen? Who knows? It depends on Roger Goodell, but that's the situation. So right now, go for it.
The remaining schedule for Atlanta, you got Tampa Bay, at Carolina, against Indianapolis, at Chicago, and at New Orleans.
3 divisional games. So let's say they win 1, lose 2, but the Saints lose 2, win 1. You could get to like a 500 record.
Yeah, which is a little more respectable than somebody that's going in like at 8-9 or whatever.
Yeah, like if I see a playoff team at 7-10.
Be like
Seahawks, God help me.
Was that Seahawks from what year was that again? 2000.
Wasn't that the year they upset the Saints in the first round, like the Marshawn Lynch?
Big ass
Matt
Hassel.
Yep. Yeah. So it's one of those situations. But again, fans, for the NFC, it's Eagles, Niners, Lions, Falcons, Cowboys, Vikings, Packers.
Yep.
With the Rams and Seahawks at 6-6 as well, with the 6 seed Vikings and the 7 seed Packers. Quickly before we go to the AFC, out of the teams that are fringing on the playoffs, so Vikings, Packers, Rams, Seahawks, out of those 4 teams, and I'll throw Tampa and New Orleans into the mix just because they're 1 game behind that and they're playing divisional foes the next couple of weeks. So out of those teams, in this moment right now, who gets the final 2 slots in the 6-7 seed? In non-particular order.
Man, that's
the loaded question.
It is. Packers are starting to play really well right now. I'm going to go ahead and slot them in there to one of the spots.
I know Minnesota, I believe, is going to try to get Justin Jefferson back next week, so they're going to start getting healthier.
No, see the Rams, I feel like they're just banged up right now.
Puka Nacua went out today. Cooper Kupp finally got a touchdown today. Higbee went out with a concussion. That game, speaking of which, Browns-Rams, was injury-filled. There was like 8 different guys that went out with either concussions or injuries. So take that for what it is.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, Tom, I think it just might end up being what we're seeing right here. Although I think you might flip it.
Packers 6, Vikings 7.
We might see 3 NFC North teams make the playoffs, dude.
The one team out of that, I agree with you. I feel Minnesota is going to get Justin Jefferson back. That's a huge boost to Josh Dobbs in the offense. I know there's question with Josh Dobbs. Is he going to be the quarterback? Really? Like, I think he is. I think he had not a good but not great game against Denver.
Yeah.
He got embarrassed on Monday night against the Bears. I get it. Who doesn't have a quarterback that has an embarrassing game?
Right.
Like, come on. Mahomes has had one. Hurts has had one. MV Purdy has had a bad game before. Josh Dobbs is the quarterback in Minnesota. But the Rams scare me a little bit. They're getting hot. They're finding their stride. Matthew Stafford's a veteran. That defense is getting stronger. And if Cooper Kupp continues to reach the end zone, if Puka Nakua's okay, those are two deadly weapons on the outside. The Rams could put their name in the conversation and just squeak in there.
True.
And imagine Niners, Rams play each other the last week of the season, then the first round of the postseason. That would be a little wild. Yeah. So it could get interesting. It could, but for right now in this moment, I like Minnesota and Green Bay as well. I don't know which order they'll flip in because who the heck knows? Dallas could lose 4 in a row because Dallas has some tough games coming up.
Yeah.
But I like that. Let's quickly get to the AFC because that's where the Jets lie. And unfortunately, lying
we
is
lie way down there about 6 feet under.
They're lying 6 feet under. But hey, they're not the New England Patriots at 2-10. So
actually, I take that back. There's about 50 feet of shit and there's the Jets.
Looking at the Jets, they look up to this team in the division, and it's the team in the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Miami Dolphins, they rolled through the Commanders today.
Yeah, they did.
Baltimore had a bye week. They're 9-3 as well. Jacksonville plays tomorrow against Cincinnati. I think Randy and I, as well as Brandon, I think all 3 of us picked Jacksonville to win that game. And I know when this goes out, that game will either be taking place or be just finishing. But for all intents and purposes, Jacksonville, let's say Jacksonville goes 9-3 tomorrow. 3-way tie for the number 1 seed. Chiefs lose. They're 8-4 in the 4 seed. Then it gets interesting. You have 3 teams that could tie for the 5 seed. Pittsburgh, Browns, Indianapolis, and Houston all at 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
And the fringe teams at the bottom, Denver 6-6, and surprisingly, the Buffalo Bills at 6-6. If this ends up being the playoff standings, you would have Baltimore against the Colts, Jacksonville against the Browns, and the Chiefs hosting the Steelers. I don't care about the ratings at this point. I want to really look at the fringe teams right now because this is where we talked about it with Houston and Indy. It's going to get hella interesting.
Yeah. And now Houston owns a tiebreaker over the Broncos.
Houston owns a tiebreaker with the Broncos. To me, I think Buffalo's season hinges on next week. They got the Chiefs in Kansas City next week. Mm-hmm. I think Buffalo's season, I'm not saying it's all over if they lose, but the uphill climb is going to be huge.
Yeah.
If Buffalo wins, I see them getting 5, 6, or 7 seed. They'll make a comeback and make a push. If they don't, good luck. Denver's surprising a little bit, that 5-game winning streak, and they got the Chargers. They could make it interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely still in it for sure.
And Houston and Indy, we've already talked about them within their own division. They're kind of sexy in a weird way. They're kind of like the awkward kid that's kind of sexy.
Yeah.
So for you, out of the 5, and I know Buffalo's technically the 10 seed, between 5 and 10, what do you make of that scenario? And who do you like in that? In this case, it'd be the final 3 seeds, 5, 6, and 7, because who knows what Kenny Pickett's future lies with his injury. Cleveland has Joe Flacco, and because of their inconsistencies on offense, they look like a train wreck at the moment. And everybody below is getting hotter. So what would you take in those 3 spots?
Yeah, I mean, depending on Kenny Pickett, like we'll say, what was his injury again? Do you remember?
I believe it was an ankle.
Okay.
And just to put a little food for thought, let's just say next 3 games for Pittsburgh. Wonderful game Thursday night. Pittsburgh hosting New England. Spot on. Steelers at Colts. Colts in the mix. And then Bengals at Steelers. So there's the Steelers' next 3 games. They have Seattle and Baltimore to finish out their regular season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll say Kenny Pickett's out
on a short week.
Yeah, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks tops. depending on what the ankle injury is. High ankle sprain, regardless, it's probably going to be a 2-3 week thing.
Which is Mitchell Trubisky getting the nod at that point.
Yeah, and that's tough, man, because I thought I didn't like Kenny Pickett. I do not like that dude. I say if that's the scenarios, if they lose Kenny Pickett for at least 2 weeks, I can actually see Pittsburgh falling out of this thing. Colts probably moving up to 6. I don't know about the Browns, dude. I mean, I know they got a good defense, but they don't really have an offense right now that could really match the defense.
Joe Flacco looked surprising for what I thought coming on a short week, just getting signed. He played pretty well. And I know the score looks different. It was 36-19. The Rams scored 2 late touchdowns. It was 27-19. So it was around an 8-point game. Then they scored a touchdown and had a late safety and Hail Mary time. So it was like 27-19. It was close.
What's their remaining games look like?
I will take a look. I'm glad that you asked that, Randy. It makes us great. As I look that up, here's a quick food for thought by Gary Dolak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He reports that it is an ankle injury and Pickett is set to miss extended time. Expect him to miss Thursday against New England and potentially another game or 2.
Yeah, I figured it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks with some kind of ankle injury like that.
For the Broncos.
As long as it wasn't broken.
Well, not for the Broncos. Sorry, for the Browns. Mm-hmm. Browns next week head home to take on Jacksonville. Ooh. Followed by at home against the Bears.
Okay. Then
they go to a Texans team. So both Pittsburgh and Cleveland play one of the teams that is chasing them. Man. Then they finish the year at home against the one and only New York Jets, and then at Cincinnati.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So Pittsburgh has tough games in Indianapolis and Baltimore, while Cleveland has Jacksonville and the Texans.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this ends with the way things are going right now, especially with Kenny Pickett now gone for possibly 3 weeks. And with the Browns schedule the way it is, give me Colts in the 5th spot, Texans in the 6th spot, and the Broncos sneaking in the 7th spot.
All right, all 3. Again, food for thought. The Colts, they have Bengals, Steelers, Falcons, Raiders, Texans. So the Texans-Colts game at the last week of the season could have those implications that we talk about. Houston has the Jets next week, which I know we're going to talk about in depth with Brandon in a couple days. Then they have Tennessee again, Tennessee for the first time in a 3-week span. Wow. Browns sandwiched between the Titans again, and then they end with the Colts. So the Texans had 3 divisional games in their final 4 games of the season. And Tennessee's defense right now is not great. Oh. I expect Houston to win both of those games, which would put them at 9-5. Sorry. Here's sneak preview. They're going to beat the Jets. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. So right there, the Texans win 10 games. The Browns game could be interesting. That Colts game could be it. Though Houston Texans, they need to be put in prime time.
Yeah.
Put them in prime time, please. For me, I'm going to put Houston in the 5 seed.
Okay.
Colts. It's hard because I want to say Buffalo. Because, Buffalo's had that track record of being in the AFC title game. But they have Chiefs next week, Cowboys the following week, Chargers, Pats, and Dolphins.
Ooh.
They have, I think, the tougher schedule of the bunch because Denver just has the Chargers, the Lions, the Patriots, the Chargers again, and the Raiders. So they have a lot of divisional games. I see the Broncos beating the Chargers both times.
Yeah.
And I think they lose to the Lions, beat the Patriots, and they beat the Raiders. So that would put them around 10 wins as well. But I'm going to go with 5 seed Houston, 6 seed Colts, and forgive my better judgment, I'm going to say Buffalo surprises and goes in the 7 seed, which would put them playing the 2 seed, which could be any combination of Miami, Baltimore, and Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And again, God strike me down now. I hope Ravens get the 1 seed, put Miami in the 2 seed. Buffalo knows how to beat Miami. Because what do we always say? Miami doesn't beat who?
Good teams.
Good teams, just like Dallas. So that would be fun. But I think this push to the playoff is going to be hella interesting at the end of the day. I think the AFC has more opportunities to surprise us.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it begins with the Colts, the Texans, the Broncos, that fringe team. I think we talked about in the NFC, I don't think any of those fringe teams are going to hop who's there now. I think the AFC, you could see it. And I am all fucking for it. Put them in prime time. Put them in prime time. I want to see it. I know Mr. CJ Stroud jersey over here wants to see some CJ in the postseason. But man,
that would be cool.
Before we sign off tonight, final thoughts. Week 13. I know it's not over yet with Monday Night Football, but what do you take from this day? To me, it was a success for me. It was a success.
Well, oh man, it's just, I can tell you one thing: the Niners are the top dog in the NFC right now. I mean, they took that spot.
Yeah.
Nothing's
given. You got to take it.
The Packers are better than we thought. They're playing some really good ball right now. Jordan Love is better than I thought.
Yep.
The Jets lost today, so I think we can pretty much rule out Aaron Rodgers probably coming back this year.
You think? You don't think he comes back even just to showboat, like, hey, I'm back, I'm special?
No, I think I know a lot of people want to run that narrative. Oh, he's all about himself. He's all about his fucking ego. But he did say, we got to be in it, and we're out, dude. Season done. Like, there's no road. I can't see any road to the playoffs.
I think the road, even though it would have been a serious uphill battle, if the Colts lost to Tennessee today, and if Cleveland did, everybody lost in that fringe level with the exception of Indianapolis. I think if Indy lost, and I think if Buffalo loses next week to the Chiefs, or if that game was this week, if Buffalo lost this week, if they weren't on a bye, and the Jets have beat the Falcons, that would have put them at 5-7, a game back of Denver, who's a game back of everybody else.
Yeah.
You would have been 2 back with 5 to go.
And we got the tiebreaker. We had the tiebreaker over Denver too.
You have the tiebreaker over Denver. Mathematically, you're in it. It would have been an uphill climb because you have Miami again. You still have Cleveland, who's a dog. You got a couple other, teams. But like I said before, and I'll say it again, the Raiders game, Patriots game, the Chiefs game was unfortunate. I had a lot of ref help on that one.
Yeah.
And the Falcons game today. Those 4 games, you could be 8-4, if not 7-5. It's the shit hand that you're dealt with the torn Achilles in week 1 and trusting Zach Wilson. And I know we'll get into this later when Brandon comes back for the recap.
He'd probably be sitting there in the 5th seed right now.
Or at least where Denver is in the 9-10 seed and be a game out, and God only knows what could happen.
Oh, that's true. That's true, yeah.
But mathematically, is there an E by the Jets name? No, but I know how Jets fans are feeling right now. And it's one word to describe that feeling as a Jets fan right now. If I was a Jets fan, my word would be hopeless or helpless.
That's a good word as any. Tired. I mean, if you can jumble a bunch of words, sick and fucking tired, if you want to make that one word.
Sure. We'll put a couple hyphenations. It'll all work. Man, I know we'll get in more Jets talk in a couple of days when Brandon comes back for the recap show and the preview show and the pick'ems. But thank you, first and foremost, for letting me come on here and taking over the One Jets pod page for just one time, for being a host for the, for the Around the League, we're pushing towards the playoffs here, people.
Yep.
The calendar is flipped to December. The holidays are upon us, and the playoff picture is starting to come into form.
Yep.
And for those Jets fans that are feeling tired and hopeless and helpless, like Randy and Brandon will probably be, once that E is by the Jets name and the playoffs have begun, I will donate my red and gold and white Niner gear just for you. Come on over, enjoy some playoff football. Robert Saleh was a former Niners coach, so there's that tie. And what's the other tie that the Jets and Niners have together?
Beat them Eagles, baby.
We beat them Eagles. There we go. That's how we ended here on the One Jets pod. But for the Around the League show, emergency special episode. It's like, special holidays episode. Here we are. We're special. We're smiling. We're happy. But Randy, thank you for letting me host this special episode here. Thanks for your takes as well. And I know we'll close it out, but looking forward to the recap and the preview show this week. Don't forget, fans at home. Yes, we talk about non-Jet stuff a lot, but follow the One Jets pod. Anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, anywhere you get them, please do it. Also, like, comment, subscribe. It's super easy. Press the button. Do what you got to do. Yes, we give you Jets coverage. Yes, it gets a little tired because it's a rinse and repeat cycle, but you get fun content from around the league as well. And I know Brandon couldn't be on the show tonight, but Brandon, he is phenomenal as well. Another addition here to the show. Thanks, Randy, for bringing me on as an outsider Jet fan this season with all the connections possible. It's we like to have good time, the three of us, so we keep the music playing for the next couple of weeks. Shout out to all the fans listening, not just in the United States, outside of the U.S. as well. I know, what do we got? Germany, the UK, Canada.
Actually, I'm going to bring them up right now.
Well, I think we got some newbies to the mix as well, but the followers have been going up. Just thank you guys.
United Kingdom, Germany, and the Dominican Republic.
The DR. Woo! We got some DR magic.
And shout out to all the new YouTube subscribers. Thank you guys for coming on board. Appreciate it so much. You guys make this show possible. And the more you like, comment, and subscribe, it just is a testament to not only what Randy put together from the inception of this just a couple of months ago, the effort he puts in. I always tell you off air, but I'm going to tell you on air. The graphics, the content, everything you put together, the heart and soul, man, Randy does it all the way, 100%. So until next time, Randy, I'll let you sign off because this is your baby. We're going to put it off that way. From one host, part-time, to the OG host, Randy, thank you for tonight. It's been great. Go Niners! Put some respect on Brock Purdy's name. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the One Jets pod. I'm Randy Odds again. That's Dominic Lorenz again. Great job tonight, Dominic. Again, congratulations on your team on a great week of pick'ems, which we'll talk about this upcoming week. Again, thanks for joining us here on the One Jets pod. Again, you can find us on Amazon Music. You can find us on Apple Pod, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can also find us here on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, and we're also on Twitter/X. And again, thanks again for checking us out here on the One Jets pod, and we'll see you down the road. Go Jets and go Niners!
Welcome to Jet Life Stadium. Hit it!